He kissed a 1,000-year-old alien statue in a joke. It opened its eyes and said, "You doomed your species." Ethan Cole was not a cautious man. He liked to joke, to tease, and to push boundaries, especially when it came to things that scared most other people. The research station Argo 7 floated silently in the darkness of space, far from Earth, far from any friendly light. The station orbited a strange, ancient alien ruin that had drifted for centuries without anyone noticing. No one knew who built it or why, but scientists from many nations had come to study it, hoping to unlock its secrets. Ethan worked as a junior xenology assistant. He was one of the youngest members of the research team, and most of the time his experiments failed. Still, he was quick and clever in unexpected ways. His friend Maya Grant, a systems engineer with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, often had to save his experiments from complete disaster. She was serious and careful, the kind of person who believed in rules and consequences. Ethan did not. The alien ruin was a strange and broken circle, floating in space like a forgotten ring. Its surface glowed faintly with lines that pulsed slowly. Inside the circle was a chamber, and in the center of the chamber stood a statue. The statue was taller than any human, shaped like an alien female made of silver crystal. Her eyes were closed, and her hands were folded across her chest. Her form was elegant, almost regal, and she had an air of calm that seemed to fill the whole room. The scientists believed she was more than 1,000 years old. Ethan stared at the statue with curiosity. His first thought was that it looked lonely. He made a joke to the team. "I bet she's bored sitting here for 1,000 years," he said, laughing. Lucas Bryant, the security officer, chuckled. "What are you going to do, Ethan? Talk to her?" Ethan smirked. "Better, I'll give her a kiss. That will wake her up for sure." The room laughed, the kind of laughter that was nervous but filled with excitement. Scientists loved a little fun, especially when it broke the tension of endless research. Maya shook her head and said, "Ethan, don't even think about it. That statue could be dangerous. Nobody knows what it does." Ethan waved at her, smiling. "Relax, it's just a rock, Maya." A very pretty rock. He walked closer to the statue. The team stepped back, unsure if this was serious or another one of Ethan's jokes. He leaned forward and pressed his lips to the statue's cheek, laughing as he did it. "There, happy now." For a long moment nothing happened. Then the chamber lights flickered, and the soft hum of the station became louder, vibrating through the walls. The glowing lines on the statue pulsed faster, brightening like they were alive. The room went quiet. Then, slowly, the statue's eyes opened. The alien eyes were not human. They glowed with a soft blue light, and they seemed to look through Ethan, past him, as if seeing everything at once. A calm voice filled the room. It was soft but powerful, echoing in every corner. "You have awakened me," it said. "By your action you have bound yourself and your species to a fate you cannot yet understand." The scientists froze. Ethan stepped back, his joke gone, replaced by shock. Maya grabbed his arm. "Ethan, what did you do?" The statue's body began to move. She stepped down from her platform with slow, deliberate steps. Her crystal form shimmered and then changed. Her body became flesh, smooth and alien but alive, breathing in the recycled air of the station. She looked at Ethan with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. "I am Sarilith," she said. "I am the last guardian of the Valorian Covenant. Your people have now been marked. The Watchers of the Void have detected you. You have invited danger upon your world." Ethan tried to speak but could not find words. Maya pulled him closer. "Danger? What danger?" Sarilith's gaze swept over the room. "The Null Swarm, creatures that consume life, civilizations, and stars. They have slept far away, waiting for signs of life to feed upon. Your foolish act has made your species visible. You have doomed humanity unless we act swiftly." The room went silent again. Even the security officers looked afraid. Weapons felt useless against this being, this living statue. Ethan could feel the fear in the room, but he also felt something else. The statue was not here to destroy, she was here to protect. You, Sarilith said, looking directly at Ethan, are now bound to me. Your species' survival is tied to your actions and to your understanding of our ways. You will serve as the anchor to our bond. Maya shook her head. Anchor, what does that mean? Sarilith explained that her species had created guardians like her to sleep across the galaxy, waiting for new allies. The statues could detect emotional signals as well as physical touch. Ethan's kiss had triggered the awakening ritual, a symbolic gesture of trust and unity. By doing so, he had bound himself to Sarilith and activated the ancient protection protocols. Lucas muttered, "So all of this is because of a kiss." Sarilith's eyes turned slightly toward him. "Not a kiss alone, but a pledge expressed through your action. You are now responsible for humanity in ways you cannot yet comprehend." The alarms on the station began to wail. Sensors picked up massive energy distortions outside. Sarilith explained that the Null Swarm had already sensed her awakening and would come soon. Captain Laura Benson, who had been monitoring the station from the bridge, ordered lockdown procedures. The station's crew was trained for emergencies, but nothing in their manuals explained this. They surrounded Sarilith cautiously, weapons raised. She raised her hand and the weapons failed. They could not function near her presence. "Stand down," she said. "I do not intend to harm you. I am here to guide you, to protect your species if you will follow my instructions." Ethan felt the weight of what had happened. His joke had become the worst mistake of his life, but it was also the only chance humanity had to survive. He stepped closer to Sarilith. I didn't mean to. You intended what you intended," she said calmly. "Now the consequences are before you. Your choices matter more than you realize." Maya worked quickly to stabilize the station. She helped Sarilith access systems that humans did not fully understand. Together, they upgraded shields, reprogrammed sensors, and began preparing for what was coming. Ethan watched in awe. The alien knowledge was far beyond anything humans had discovered. Hours passed, and the tension in the station was nearly unbearable. Every crew member waited for signs of the Null Swarm. Finally, the long-range scanners detected enormous shadow shapes moving at the edge of the system. The Null Swarm had arrived earlier than Sarilith expected. Ethan realized the weight of his mistake fully. He had awakened something ancient, something that could destroy planets, and now it was coming for Earth. Maya placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll fix this," she said. "We have to." Sarilith's eyes softened slightly as she looked at Ethan. "You have been foolish, but you have also given humanity a chance. I will not abandon them. But you, human, must learn quickly. Your species is stronger than I thought, and yet weaker in ways you do not see. You must grow." Ethan swallowed hard. He did not feel strong. He felt terrified, responsible, and uncertain. Yet there was a flicker of hope. For the first time, he realized that sometimes the smallest, silliest action could change the course of history. The Null Swarm was coming, but the station was ready. Or at least, it would be ready as much as humans and one ancient alien guardian could make it. Ethan knew that nothing would ever be the same. The joke was gone. The universe had taken his foolish act seriously, and now he would have to live with the consequences. Sarilith began to explain what humans would need to survive. She showed them ancient energy weapons, defensive shields, and ways to combine human and Valorian technology. Maya adapted the systems to human controls, while Ethan tried to keep up with the instructions. Each command felt like magic, like learning a language he had never known existed. Ethan also began to feel something else, a connection to Sarilith. Every time she moved, every time she spoke, he could sense the history of her people. He saw visions of long-past battles, victories, and losses. It was overwhelming, and yet it made him feel part of something bigger. That night the station floated silently above the ruin, preparing for the inevitable. Ethan lay awake in his small quarters, thinking about what he had done. A joke had awakened an ancient guardian, activated a galactic protocol, and marked humanity for survival or destruction. The weight of centuries rested on his shoulders, and he knew it. Outside, the stars seemed colder, darker. Yet among them, he could see the faint glow of Seralith's energy, a promise that not all hope was lost. For better or worse, humanity's story had changed forever because of one careless, foolish act, and now it was time to face the consequences. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of the station's alarms still echoing in his ears. The Null Swarm was coming, and it was no longer a distant threat. Seralith had moved to the control center of Argo 7, her presence commanding every system with a quiet authority. Her eyes glowed faintly as she studied the readings, her fingers hovering over consoles that no human had ever touched before. Maya arrived at his side, her face tense. "We need to get ready," she said. "Seralith is upgrading the station defenses, but it's not enough. The Null Swarm is massive. Even with her help, we're outnumbered." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of his role. He had wanted attention, a laugh, a small joke, and now his joke had placed the whole of humanity in jeopardy. He swallowed hard and followed Maya into the main control room, where Seralith was already giving instructions to the crew. "Listen carefully," Seralith said, her voice calm but firm. "The Null Swarm is not like any enemy you have faced. They do not follow normal logic. They consume, adapt, and spread rapidly. Their scouts are fast and their main forces are massive. If they reach Earth without interference, your species will be destroyed within days." Lucas Bryant, the security officer, stepped forward. "What do you suggest?" "Can we fight them with our ships?" Seralith shook her head. "Your weapons are primitive against them. They will destroy your vessels quickly. We will combine your technology with Velorian systems. Your ships will survive longer, but you cannot defeat the swarm without strategy." "You must learn our ways." Captain Laura Benson arrived, her uniform crisp and her expression serious. "We don't have the luxury of waiting for a perfect plan. We need action now." Seralith's glowing eyes turned to the captain. "Action without understanding will lead to your destruction. I will teach and you will follow. Together, we will give your species a chance. Without my guidance, you are already doomed." Ethan stood near the back of the room, listening. He felt a strange connection to Seralith, one he could not explain. When she spoke, he could almost feel the weight of her memories, the centuries of battles she had fought. It was overwhelming, but he also felt hope. The first lesson was about shields. Seralith explained how her species had created energy fields that could absorb massive attacks and regenerate. Maya worked quickly to adapt the Velorian designs to human technology. The combination of human engineering and alien systems produced shields unlike any Earth had seen before. Next came the weapons. Seralith guided the crew in crafting plasma-based energy weapons, capable of cutting through the Null Swarm's defenses. The systems were complicated, and at first no one could understand them. Ethan tried, failing multiple times, but Seralith encouraged him. "You learn through action, human. Do not fear mistakes. Fear only weakens you." Hours turned into days as the crew trained under Seralith's guidance. They learned how to combine human courage with Velorian precision. Even the soldiers, who had spent years in Earth's military, found the alien systems unfamiliar and challenging. Yet slowly, they adapted. Ethan learned something else too. He discovered that his bond with Seralith was more than symbolic. When he concentrated, he could sense the flow of energy through the station, the hum of the Velorian systems, and even fragments of her thoughts. It was tiring, but it gave him insight others lacked. He began to understand why Seralith had chosen him as the anchor. One afternoon, Maya pulled him aside. "Ethan, you can't keep ignoring how dangerous this is," she said. Her eyes were filled with worry, but also determination. "The Null Swarm isn't a story, it's real, and it's coming." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of her words. I know, I never imagined a joke could do this. I never imagined all of this. Maya sighed. We don't have time for regrets. We need to survive. The first signs of the null swarm appeared on long-range sensors just as Sarilith had predicted. Massive shapes moved through space, black clouds interspersed with glimmering metallic fragments. They approached fast, faster than anyone had anticipated. Captain Benson ordered the station into combat mode. Argo 7's new shields powered up, humming with energy that was both alien and human. Weapons systems glowed, ready to fire. Sarilith stood at the center of it all, a calm presence amid chaos. The first wave of Null Swarm scouts arrived. They were terrifying to see up close. Black, almost liquid in appearance, with jagged metal spikes protruding in irregular patterns. They moved like living storms, twisting and adapting as they attacked the station. Ethan felt panic rising, but Sarilith's voice kept him steady. Focus, human, control your fear. Your strength is in your mind and your will. The scouts collided with the station shields. Energy flared, arcs of light slicing through the darkness. Maya and the crew watched the readings, making adjustments to keep the shield strong. Even so, some drones breached the outer defenses and were destroyed by internal countermeasures. The battle was intense, but the station survived. After the first wave, Sarilith gathered the crew. This was only a scout attack, she said. The main fleet is coming. Your survival depends on preparation and unity. You must work as one. Your species' survival is now part of my purpose. Captain Benson turned to Ethan. Your joke caused this. Now you have to help fix it. Can you do that? Ethan nodded, though he did not feel confident. I'll do my best. Sarilith explained the strategy. Earth's ships alone could not stand against the Null Swarm. They needed the Valorian Guardians, ancient beings like her, to awaken and join the fight. Some were dormant, hidden across the galaxy, waiting for a species to bond with them. Ethan realized that his journey was only beginning. He would have to help Sarilith locate these guardians, awaken them, and train humans to fight alongside them. It was dangerous and complicated, but it was the only hope for survival. Days passed as the crew worked tirelessly. Ethan learned to operate Valorian systems, to interpret alien energy flows, and to understand the language of ancient technology. He felt exhausted, but he also felt purpose. He began to see himself not as a fool who made a joke, but as a human capable of change. Maya stayed close, helping him understand technical details, translating complex alien instructions into something humans could manage. Lucas prepared the station defenses, and Captain Benson coordinated Earth's response, sending warnings to other stations and fleets. One night, Ethan stayed with Sarilith in the control center. The stars outside were dark, but far in the distance he could see shapes moving, the Null Swarm closing in. "Are we ready?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarilith looked at him with her glowing eyes. "Readiness is not about weapons or shields, human. Readiness is in your mind and heart. You must understand fear and control it. You must trust that humans can grow stronger than you realize." Ethan felt the truth of her words. He had been reckless, careless, and foolish. Now he was learning the weight of responsibility, and for the first time he understood that survival was not about luck. It was about courage, learning, and unity. The Null Swarm's main fleet appeared a few days later. Thousands of vessels, massive and terrifying, formed a living wall in space. Their shapes twisted, merged, and shifted like shadows. Argo 7's new shields glowed under their assault. Lasers, plasma beams, and Valorian energy bursts collided with the swarm, causing flashes that lit up the darkness. Ethan worked with Sarilith, channeling her energy through the station systems. He could feel the strain, but he also felt a strange exhilaration. He was part of something bigger than himself, part of a battle that could decide the fate of humanity. The first attacks were repelled, but Sarilith warned that the swarm would adapt. The battle would not end with one wave. Humans had to learn quickly or they would perish. Maya worked tirelessly, modifying Valorian systems with human engineering, creating weapons that could adapt alongside the swarm. Lucas led security teams, training soldiers to operate in zero gravity and manage energy weapons they barely understood. Captain Benson coordinated Earth's fleets, trying to hold the line while the station fought to survive. Ethan realized that this was just the beginning. His joke had started a chain of events that could either destroy or save humanity. The pressure was immense, but he also began to feel pride. They were learning, adapting, and fighting together. Saralith stood beside him, her presence a constant reminder of the stakes. She had centuries of knowledge, and now she was sharing it with humans. Ethan felt honored and terrified at the same time. The bond between them was growing stronger, and he could feel her trust in him. By the end of the first week of battle, humanity had survived the initial assaults. Argo 7 was damaged but operational, the crew exhausted but alive. The Null swarm had been pushed back, but only temporarily. Saralith warned that they would return stronger, faster, and more deadly. Ethan looked out at the stars, the dark shapes of the swarm fleet lingering at the edges of their sensors. He thought of Earth, the people who were unaware of the danger approaching, and he felt a surge of determination. This was his fault, and now it was his responsibility to help fix it. Maya joined him silently. "We have work to do," she said. Ethan nodded. Together they would prepare for the battles to come. Humanity had been given a chance, and they would not waste it. Saralith's voice echoed in his mind, calm but firm. "The path ahead is dangerous, human, but your species has potential. You may yet grow into the defenders of life that even my people once were. The journey begins now." The stars outside were quiet, but the darkness held threat and possibility alike. Ethan felt the weight of what had happened and the strength of what was to come. The joke had awakened a guardian. The Null swarm had arrived. Humanity had its first real chance to fight and survive. The days after the first wave of attacks were tense and exhausting. Ethan had barely slept, and Maya looked tired but determined. The crew of Argo 7 moved like a single organism, each person knowing their role. Every day brought new lessons in Valorian technology, new ways to fight the Null swarm, and new realizations about just how dangerous their enemy was. Saralith spent hours with Ethan, teaching him more about the bond that connected them. "You must understand," she said, her voice calm, "that your mind and spirit are part of this fight. You are not just a human now. You are an extension of my purpose, and I am tied to yours. Without trust, without focus, your species cannot survive." Ethan nodded. He wanted to argue that he was just a human, a small and foolish one at that, but he could feel the truth in her words. When he focused, he could sense the energy flow in the station, the movement of the Null swarm outside, and even the potential reactions of his crew. It was exhausting, but it also made him feel useful. Maya had adapted more Valorian systems than anyone else. She had created energy cannons that could track the swarm's movements and shields that could absorb energy bursts, far larger than anything humans had made before. Lucas had trained security teams to operate in zero gravity, moving through the station with precision, ready to repel boarding attacks. Captain Laura Benson coordinated with Earth Command, trying to convince them of the danger that had been awakened. Many on Earth still did not fully understand the scale of the threat. They had dismissed earlier warnings as paranoia. Now, the signs were undeniable. The Null swarm was real, and it was coming for the planet. Ethan felt a growing sense of dread. His joke had started all of this, and now humanity's fate rested on him and the small team aboard Argo 7. He wanted to run, to hide, but Saralith's presence reminded him of responsibility. The first full engagement with the Null swarm came unexpectedly. Long-range sensors detected a massive cloud moving faster than anticipated. The swarm did not come in small waves this time. Thousands of ships, irregular and twisted, moved like a living storm toward Argo 7. Sarilith's eyes glowed as she accessed the station's defenses. "Prepare for battle," she said. "The swarm adapts quickly. Every action you take will teach it something. We must be faster than it, smarter than it." Ethan and Maya worked at the control consoles, coordinating energy flows and weapon outputs. Ethan felt a strange connection to Sarilith, a pull that made him understand patterns that should have been impossible. He could almost predict where the swarm would strike next. The first clash was devastating. Energy beams cut through the darkness, colliding with the swarm's outer ships. The station shook as impacts struck the shields. Some ships managed to breach the defenses, but internal countermeasures destroyed them before they could cause lasting damage. Lucas and his security teams moved quickly, repelling any breach attempts. They fought with precision, using plasma weapons guided by Velorian targeting systems. Even so, the swarm adapted, shifting its formations, changing its attack patterns. It was as if it were alive, learning from every engagement. Ethan realized something terrifying. The null swarm did not just attack. It studied. It remembered. Every mistake the humans made was noted and used against them in the next wave. After hours of intense fighting, the swarm withdrew, leaving the station battered but intact. Sarilith assessed the damage, her eyes glowing faintly. This was only the beginning. The swarm will return, stronger and faster. "Your species has learned much, but the trial has only started." Captain Benson turned to Ethan. "Your joke started this. Now you have to help finish it. Are you ready?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I have to be." The crew worked non-stop to repair the station and upgrade weapons. Maya and Ethan collaborated closely, adapting Velorian systems for human use. They created new shields, faster energy pulses, and adaptive weapons that could change patterns to counter the swarm's learning. During the nights, Ethan learned more about Sarilith's memories. Through their bond, he could see glimpses of her past battles. Entire worlds had fallen to the null swarm, civilizations erased in hours. The knowledge was terrifying, but it also gave him insight. He began to understand strategies, weaknesses, and the importance of unity. Maya noticed a change in him. "You're different," she said quietly one night. "You're not just joking anymore, you're serious, focused, maybe even brave." Ethan smiled faintly. "I don't feel brave, I don't want to fail everyone." Their next mission was clear. To survive, they needed more than just Argo 7. They needed Velorian guardians, ancient beings like Sarilith, to awaken and join the fight. Some were dormant, hidden across the galaxy. Activating them would give humanity allies strong enough to stand against the null swarm. The crew prepared for a dangerous expedition. Ethan, Maya, Lucas, and Sarilith would travel to a nearby system where a dormant guardian statue had been detected. Captain Benson authorized the mission despite the risk. It was their only hope. The journey through space was tense. Every sensor reading, every flicker of light could signal an attack. The null swarm had adapted to their presence, sending small scouts to follow and probe their movements. Ethan felt the pressure of responsibility with every passing hour. When they arrived at the location of the first Guardian, they found a world scarred by ancient battles. Craters, destroyed cities, and twisted landscapes told the story of past civilizations that had fallen to the swarm. In the center of the planet stood a massive Velorian statue, dormant and silent, its form frozen in time. Sarilith explained the procedure. "You must bond with the Guardian," she said. "It will awaken if it senses trust and intent. This bond is delicate. Failure could destroy both you and the Guardian." Ethan stepped forward, hands shaking. He remembered his first joke, his first kiss that had awakened Sarilith. Now the stakes were unimaginably higher. He approached the statue and focused, trying to project trust and purpose. The Guardian's eyes opened slowly. Light spread across its body, shimmering like liquid silver. It towered over them, a being of immense power and ancient knowledge. Ethan felt the bond connect him to it, as Sarilith had connected him to her. He could sense its thoughts, its memories, and its readiness to fight. The awakening was not without consequences. The Null swarm detected the energy surge instantly. Scouts appeared in orbit around the planet, and massive ships moved toward them. The newly awakened Guardian pulsed with energy, protecting the team and planet from immediate harm. Ethan felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. He had done something incredible, but he also knew that the swarm would not stop. This was only the beginning. The team quickly returned to Argo 7 with the new Guardian. Its presence strengthened the station's defenses. Energy fields shimmered across the hull, adaptive weapons glowed, and the crew's morale rose. Humans now had an ally powerful enough to stand against part of the Null swarm fleet. Despite the success, Ethan could not ignore the looming threat. The main swarm fleet was still moving through space, learning, adapting, and preparing to strike. Earth's defenses were still incomplete and time was running out. Sarilith gathered the crew. "This is a battle of endurance, strategy, and unity," she said. "Each guardian we awaken strengthens your species' chance of survival. Each step you take must be deliberate. Fear is natural, but it cannot control you. Trust in your bond, trust in each other." Ethan looked around at his friends, at the exhausted but determined crew, at the Guardian standing tall in the control room. For the first time, he felt something like hope. They had survived the first assaults, learned to fight alongside alien technology, and awakened a powerful ally. Maya stood beside him. "We can do this," she said softly. Ethan nodded. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down, but he also felt purpose. His joke had started all of this, but now he had the chance to help finish it, to help save humanity. The stars outside the station were calm, but darkness moved in the distance. The Null swarm would return, stronger and more deadly. The battle for survival had only begun. Ethan took a deep breath. "We have to be ready," he said, "for everything." Sarilith's eyes glowed with faint approval. "Then learn quickly, human. Your species' future depends on it." The team worked through the night, preparing for the next wave, adapting to the power of the new Guardian and learning to trust each other. Every lesson, every failure, and every small success brought them closer to understanding what it meant to survive against an enemy that had no mercy, no reason, and no end. For Ethan, the journey was no longer a joke. It was real. It was terrifying. And it was only the beginning. The journey to awaken more Valorian Guardians was dangerous, and the crew of Argo 7 felt the pressure of every passing moment. Ethan, Maya, Lucas, Sarilith, and pilot Nora Callahan prepared for the expedition. Every system on the ship had been upgraded with Valorian technology, but even that could not guarantee their safety. The Null swarm was fast, adaptive, and relentless. As they left the safety of their orbit, Ethan stared out the window at the stars. Each point of light seemed fragile in the darkness, and he thought of Earth far behind them. The planet was unaware of the immediate danger, its people trusting in fleets that were still unprepared. Ethan swallowed hard. The responsibility weighed heavily. His joke had brought this upon them, but now it was his duty to fix it. Sarilith sat at the main console, her calm presence a steadying influence. "The guardians we seek are scattered across the galaxy. Most are dormant and hidden. Many have been lost to the Null swarm. We must move carefully. One mistake could alert the swarm or destroy the guardians before they awaken." Maya worked beside Ethan, her hands moving quickly across the controls. "The coordinates Sarilith gave us are precise, but the wormholes are unstable. We could be thrown far off course or into danger at any moment." Nora, the pilot, adjusted the trajectory. "I've handled unstable wormholes before, but never with a living guardian on board. Hold on." The ship lurched as they entered the first wormhole. Lights flickered and systems beeped warnings. Ethan gripped a console, feeling the energy hum through the ship. Sarilith's glowing eyes focused on the displays. Stabilize the core. Focus on the energy flow. Trust the bond, human. Ethan concentrated, and for a moment he felt the connection. Energy coursed through him from Sarilith and back into the ship. The hum steadied. The wormhole shimmered around them, twisting and folding space, and then they emerged on the other side, intact but tense. The planet they reached was scarred. Craters and twisted metal lay scattered across a barren surface. Evidence of ancient battles littered the landscape. The crew landed cautiously, knowing that the null swarm could detect energy signatures from light years away. In the center of the planet stood the first dormant guardian of their mission. It was enormous, taller than any building, its body frozen like a statue. The air around it pulsed faintly with residual energy. Sarilith explained that the guardians were alive in a suspended state, waiting for trust and intent to awaken them. Ethan approached the guardian carefully. He felt fear and responsibility twist together. His hands trembled as he reached out, mirroring the ritual he had performed with Sarilith long ago. This time, there was no joke, no laughter. The fate of humanity rested on his ability to connect. The guardian's eyes slowly opened. Light spread across its body like molten metal glowing in the sun. Ethan could feel the bond forming, strong and overwhelming. He felt the guardian's memories, its knowledge of ancient wars, its strength. At the same time, he sensed the null swarm approaching. They were faster than anticipated. Alert alarms on the ship indicated the presence of swarm scouts in orbit. Lucas prepared the security teams, while Maya adapted the Guardian's energy to reinforce the ship's shields. The Guardian pulsed with energy, creating a protective field around them as the first swarm scouts descended. The battle was immediate and brutal. The scouts were black, living metal with sharp, jagged edges, moving like shadows through space. They struck the planet's surface and the ship with equal ferocity. Energy beams flared, colliding with shields, and arcs of light illuminated the barren landscape. Ethan felt the weight of the bond as he channeled energy from the Guardian to the ship's defenses. The strain made him dizzy, but he pushed forward. Maya worked beside him, guiding the energy flows with precision, stabilizing the systems to prevent overload. Lucas led countermeasures on the planet's surface, striking the scouts with plasma weapons enhanced by Velorian technology. Hours passed, each moment a struggle. The Guardians learned quickly, adapting to the swarm's movements, but the null swarm was relentless. Sarilith remained calm, directing the team, teaching them how to predict the swarm's patterns and reminding Ethan to focus. Finally, the scouts retreated, leaving the planet and ship intact but damaged. The Guardian remained standing, fully awake now, a massive protector ready to fight alongside humanity. Ethan felt exhaustion and relief wash over him. They had survived, and humanity had gained a powerful ally. But Sarilith's voice was firm. This is only the first. We have more to awaken. The main swarm fleet is still approaching. We cannot linger. Each Guardian strengthens your chance, but every moment we delay, the swarm grows closer. The crew repaired the ship and prepared for the next jump. The journey through wormholes continued, each one dangerous, each one unpredictable. Ethan learned to trust the connection with Sarilith more and more. The energy flows, the guidance, the bond. It was exhausting but necessary. They reached another planet, one covered in dark forests and jagged mountains. Evidence of ancient civilizations lay hidden beneath the overgrowth. The second Guardian was smaller than the first but no less powerful. It remained dormant, waiting. Ethan approached carefully, remembering the lessons of the first awakening. He projected trust, focus, and purpose. The Guardian's eyes opened slowly, energy pulsing outward. The bond formed quickly this time, stronger and more stable. Ethan could feel the Guardian's strength, its readiness to fight, and its understanding of the mission. The null swarm arrived again, more scouts than before, testing the Guardian's defenses. The battle was chaotic, with energy beams, plasma strikes, and the Guardians' powers combined to repel the attackers. Maya adapted shields and weapons mid-battle, Lucas led ground defenses, and Ethan coordinated energy flows between the Guardians and the ship. Each victory was temporary. The Null Swarm adapted faster than they expected. Every success taught the Swarm, every failure risked destruction. Ethan realized that the bond with the Guardians was their greatest advantage. Human courage combined with Valorian power could counter the Swarm, but only if they acted quickly and intelligently. Days of travel and battle followed. Each planet held dormant Guardians, most partially destroyed or weakened. The crew faced obstacles, from unstable wormholes to damaged ships, from hidden traps to environmental hazards. Yet, with each challenge, they grew stronger. They learned to fight together, to trust each other, and to adapt Valorian technology to human ingenuity. Ethan began to understand something new. The Guardians were not just weapons, they were teachers. Through the bond, they shared knowledge, history, and strategies. Humanity was learning not just to fight, but to think like a species that had survived for millennia. During one particularly difficult battle, the Null Swarm sent a massive wave of ships toward a planet holding the final Guardian of the mission. The energy and pressure were overwhelming. Argo 7's shields strained, and the crew feared the worst. Ethan stepped forward, focusing deeply on the bond with Sarilith and the other awakened Guardians. He felt the energy pulse through him, guiding every decision, predicting every movement. Maya adjusted weapon outputs, Lucas led countermeasures, and Nora piloted the ship with precision through the swarm attacks. The Guardian on the planet finally awakened fully, adding its energy to the defenses. The combined power of all the Guardians and the crew repelled the swarm wave, sending them fleeing into space. Ethan felt relief, exhaustion, and hope all at once. They had succeeded, and humanity now had a network of Valorian Guardians ready to defend against the Null Swarm. Sarilith looked at Ethan, her glowing eyes calm. "You have learned quickly, human. Your species now has allies strong enough to stand against part of the Swarm fleet, yet the main threat remains. Earth still faces danger. You must return and prepare for the battle that will determine your survival." Ethan nodded, realizing the truth in her words. The Guardians had strengthened them, but the Null Swarm's main fleet was still advancing. The real battle had not yet begun. Maya stood beside him, weary but determined. "We've done what we can for now," she said. "Next, we fight for Earth itself." Ethan looked out at the stars, seeing the shadows of the swarm lingering in the distance. They were relentless, growing stronger with every passing hour. But now humanity had a chance, thanks to the Guardians, the crew, and their courage. For the first time, Ethan felt a mix of hope and fear. They were not safe, not yet, but they were prepared in ways they had never imagined. The bond with Sarilith and the Guardians had changed them. Humanity was no longer helpless. They could fight, adapt, and survive. As the ship prepared to return toward Earth, Ethan took a deep breath. The journey had been exhausting, dangerous, and full of surprises, but they had succeeded. The Guardians were awake, and humanity had gained allies strong enough to stand against the swarm. Yet Ethan knew the real test was ahead. Earth awaited, unprepared for the storm coming from the void. The Null Swarm's main fleet would not wait. Humanity's survival depended on courage, intelligence, and unity. And Ethan, once a fool with a joke, now understood the full weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. The stars outside the ship were quiet, but darkness moved closer. The journey was not over. The battle for survival was only beginning. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge of Argo 7, staring at the star-filled darkness outside. The Null Swarm's main fleet was visible on the long-range sensors. Thousands of ships, black and twisted, moved like a living shadow across space. Their shapes were irregular, almost liquid, and Ethan could feel their intelligence through the bond with Sarilith. They were not mindless. They learned, adapted, and hunted. Sarilith stood beside him, calm and glowing. "This is the battle that will determine your species' survival," she said. "The null swarm has grown stronger. Every mistake you make will cost lives. Every success will give hope." Ethan swallowed hard. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him like nothing he had ever felt. Maya was beside him, monitoring the shields and weapons systems. Lucas had the security teams ready, and Nora piloted the ship with precision through the void. The Guardians, now fully awake, surrounded the station in a protective formation, their energy fields glowing brightly. Captain Laura Benson's voice came over the intercom. "All stations on alert. Earth's fleets are in position, but they cannot withstand the swarm alone. Argo 7 and the Guardians will be the spearhead. This is humanity's fight." Ethan took a deep breath. He had trained for this moment, learned from Sarilith, adapted Valorian technology, and bonded with the Guardians. Yet fear still pulsed through him. One mistake, one lapse, and Earth could be destroyed. The first wave of the main fleet arrived faster than expected. The null swarm moved in massive coordinated patterns. Their ships collided with shields, energy flares lighting up the darkness like stars exploding. Argo 7 rocked from the impacts, but the Guardians formed a protective barrier around the station. "Focus," Sarilith said, her glowing eyes on Ethan. "The bond is your strength. Channel it. Think, act, survive." Ethan closed his eyes briefly, feeling the energy from the Guardians flowing through him. He could sense the swarm's movements, predict where they would strike next. Maya adjusted the weapons based on his guidance, and the station's cannons fired with precision, cutting through waves of attackers. The battle raged for hours. The null swarm adapted quickly. Ships that were destroyed reformed into new patterns, sending new drones to test the station's defenses. Each wave was faster, more powerful, and more relentless than the last. Lucas moved through the station with his teams, repelling boarding attempts and securing vulnerable sections. The security teams were stretched thin, but the bond with the Guardians enhanced their abilities. Every strike, every action was guided by the ancient knowledge of the Valorian species. Ethan realized something terrifying. The null swarm's central hive mind controlled the fleet. Destroy the hive and the swarm would collapse. But it was heavily protected, surrounded by adaptive defenses that changed every moment. The only way to strike was to enter the heart of the swarm fleet. He turned to Sarilith. "We can't keep fighting waves forever. We need to hit the hive." Sarilith's eyes glowed brighter. "It is dangerous. The hive is a fortress. Few have survived direct contact, but you are prepared. You are ready," Captain Benson agreed. "We'll do it. We have no choice. Earth cannot survive waiting." The strike team was assembled. Ethan, Maya, Lucas, and Nora, along with one of the strongest Guardians, boarded a small, heavily upgraded vessel designed for speed and stealth. The ship was a combination of Valorian technology and human engineering, capable of piercing the swarm's outer layers. Sarilith placed a glowing hand on Ethan's shoulder. "The bond will guide you. Trust in it, trust in each other, and trust that humanity can survive. Fear is natural, but it cannot control you." Ethan nodded, gripping the controls. The ship detached from Argo 7 and accelerated toward the heart of the swarm. The null swarm reacted immediately, sending waves of ships to intercept them. The strike team fired adaptive weapons, cutting through attackers with precision. The Guardian's energy shield surrounded the vessel, protecting it from the swarm's attacks. Even so, the pressure was immense. Ships collided with their shields, and energy arcs flashed across the void. Hours passed as they maneuvered through the swarm fleet. Ethan focused on the bond, predicting movements, guiding Maya as she adjusted weapons, and watching Lucas repel boarding attacks from small swarm drones. Nora piloted with exacting skill, weaving the ship through impossible spaces. Finally, they reached the hive. It was enormous, a living fortress of black, twisting metal pulsing with energy. The hive's core glowed like a black sun, and Ethan could feel its intelligence, its hunger, and its awareness. Every move they made was being watched. Saralith's voice echoed in his mind. This is the moment. Strike the core with precision. Disrupt the hive mind and the swarm will collapse. Ethan's hands moved over the controls. Maya adjusted the weapons for maximum energy output. Lucas prepared the boarding teams. Nora piloted with unmatched focus. They fired the first salvo directly at the hive core. Energy beams struck it, causing a pulse of feedback that shook the ship. The hive reacted instantly, sending adaptive drones to intercept. The battle inside the swarm fleet was chaotic. Energy arcs and beams collided, shields flared, and the ship shook under the pressure. Ethan could feel the bond with the Guardian guiding their movements, predicting attacks and finding openings. They pushed closer to the core. Every second felt like an eternity. The hive's defenses adapted with frightening speed. Ethan directed Maya to modify the weapons mid-battle, creating unpredictable energy patterns. The Guardians outside synchronized with the ship, adding their power to weaken the hive. Lucas led a small boarding team through a breach in the hive's defenses. They fought living metal drones, moving through corridors that shifted and changed as the hive adapted. Each strike, each move was calculated, precise, and coordinated with Ethan and Maya's guidance. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The hive's core pulsed with dark energy, almost alive. Ethan focused the bond through the Guardians and the ship. He projected trust, determination, and unity. The energy from the Guardians flowed through him and into the hive core. The core flared violently. Energy arcs spread across the hive. The swarm ships paused, then collapsed into chaos. The hive's control over its fleet faltered. Wave after wave of null swarm ships collapsed, drifting lifeless through space. Ethan felt exhaustion and relief wash over him. The main fleet had been disrupted. Humanity's survival was now possible. The strike team returned to Argo 7, the Guardians guiding them safely back. Saralith's voice was calm, but her eyes glowed brighter than ever. "You have done well, human. Your courage, focus, and bond have given your species a chance. The null swarm fleet is broken. They will not recover for many cycles." Captain Benson addressed the crew. "Earth is safe for now. This victory is yours and the Guardians. But vigilance is required. We cannot forget the lessons we have learned." Ethan looked around at his friends, at Maya, Lucas, and Nora. They were exhausted, battered, but alive. He thought of Earth, of the people who were now safe because of their efforts. He felt pride, but also humility. The joke that had started it all had grown into something far greater than he had ever imagined. The Guardians remained with them, a symbol of strength and alliance. Saralith turned to Ethan, her glowing eyes softening. "Your action awakened a bond that saved countless lives. Humanity has potential. You have proven that even the smallest, seemingly foolish act can lead to great outcomes when courage and unity guide it." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He had been reckless, careless, and foolish. Now he had helped save his species, learned courage, and forged bonds that would last across galaxies. Maya stood beside him, smiling faintly. "We did it," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yeah," he replied, "we really did it." Outside the station, the stars were quiet again. The darkness seemed less threatening now, the void less empty. The null swarm's threat had been broken, at least for now. Humanity had survived, grown stronger, and learned to fight alongside allies from ancient times. Ethan knew this was not the end. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and challenges. But for the first time he felt hope. Humans could adapt, learn, and survive. They had proven that courage, unity, and trust could overcome even the darkest threats. Saralith floated beside him, glowing softly. "You have changed, human, and so has your species. You may yet become defenders of life across the stars, stronger than even my people once were." Ethan smiled faintly, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. He thought back to the joke that had started everything, the kiss on a 1,000-year-old statue. It had seemed silly, harmless, and foolish. Yet it had awakened an ancient guardian, started a chain of events, and ultimately saved humanity. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of unknowns, full of possibilities. Ethan looked at the guardians, at his friends, and at the dark horizon. He knew the battles ahead would not be easy, but humanity had learned, grown, and survived. For the first time, Ethan felt the power of responsibility, the strength of courage, and the hope that even the smallest act could change the fate of an entire species. Humanity had survived the null swarm. They had allies among the stars. And they were ready for whatever the universe would throw at them next. The journey was far from over, but Ethan smiled. They had survived, they had fought, and humanity would endure.